Alright, with Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising Season 1 being over, because, you know, they released Vikala, the final character of Season 1 pass, I thought it would be a pretty good opportunity to talk about my personal wishlist for Season 2. However, I think I have too much to talk about when it comes to that, and for that reason, I've decided to split this topic in multiple videos. So for now, we'll focus on the characters, the DLC characters that can appear in Season 2. There are other topics that I want to talk about, say things like balance and other quality of life changes that the game can have, but I think each one of these topics would require its own video because I can talk about them pretty extensively. Anyways, with that being said, let's start talking about DLC characters. DLC characters are always very interesting in my opinion, and it's always fun to just guess how many or who will actually be part of the DLC. Now, with that being said, I do not believe that we will have the same amount of characters that we had in Season 1. I do not think there's that information anywhere else yet, but it's just a feeling that I have, and I don't really think that, you know, I think Season 1 was more for the shock value and the hype because, you know, the game was new, it just came out and they had to make the most out of it for that moment. However, for the sake of the video, we can just keep guessing with the same amount of characters that we had in Season 1 and with the same format because it's just more fun that way. I mean, 6 characters, 5 characters for the game plus 1 guest characters. I think it's a fun way to guess about, you know, I think it's a fun way to just, you know, have fun with it because it's much better that way. Anyways, with that being said, let's get started by talking about the characters that are pretty much confirmed, which will reduce the amount of characters that we might have to guess for. So let's start with 2 characters. The first one obviously being Sandalphon. He's already confirmed. He's the poster boy of Season 2, the first character that will be added, and that's pretty hard. I think a lot of people are excited about this guy. On top of that, we have another character that can be potentially confirmed at this point. It's not 100% confirmed, but I would say it's like 85% there. And that would be Sandalphon. So Sandalphon is pretty much in the game. He already has a model in. He already has several voice lines. He's been part of the story since old Granblue Versus, since Vanilla in 2020. So on top of that, he's been pretty much in every single top 10 polls. He's basically in. He's literally confirmed at this point. So there's no need to even think about if it's going to be in the game or no, in my opinion. So with that being said, it leaves us with only 4 more spots to guess. So 4 more characters to guess, 3 being Granblue actual characters and 1 being a guest character. Let's start with one that I think has a pretty high chance to also be part of the roster of Versus, and that would be Ilsa. So Ilsa, in my opinion, definitely can be in the game because, well, first of all, she's also pretty consistently there in the character polls. On top of that, this character has already been mentioned several times in the story of Versus. I mean, she doesn't really make an appearance with a model, but she has several voice lines in Eustace's story. She also talks in Eustace's outro, so that's pretty cool. We already have this info being part of the game. But also, if you look at the journal, so the journal is interesting in Granblue Versus Rising because they actually give you a lot of info on a lot of characters that appear here and there in the story, and Ilsa is one of them. So she's already kind of there. I mean, they mentioned a lot of NPCs as well, but I think Ilsa is a pretty good pick for the roster in general. Plus, most of the characters, or at least most of the very core characters of this society, are already in the game. I mean, Vasaraga, Zeta, Beatrix, and Eustace, they're already there, so you might as well just add Ilsa into the mix, so why not? Alright, so to me, Ilsa is already pretty much there. I would say she's 60% confirmed in my opinion. Now, from here, we start to guess quite a bit because there's a high chance that we might not get some of these characters, but if there's a character that I would like them to add is actually Alexiel. So I think Alexiel, first of all, looks pretty cool. So she's kind of almost in the same category as Grimner in some sort of way. So I think she would be interesting in that regard. But also, I mean, fighting style wise, come on, big sword waifu right there. We don't have that yet in the game, so why not? I love colors, a little bit of variety would be nice. I would definitely not be against the addition of this character, in my opinion. On top of that, they said she fights with like mirror blades shards or something like that. They pretty much like mirror shards that float around her. They can do a lot of fun things with that, so why not? All right, last Granblue character that we can guess here, and eventually we'll make some honorable mentions before we get to the guest characters. But the last character that I think can be interesting too, and that can be a very strong addition to the roster of Versus Rising, would be a character called Lobelia. So Lobelia is one of the evokers, same faction as Nier. Because Nier is already an evoker that is in the roster of Rising, I think it would be nice to add more characters from that faction. It's also another faction that has quite a few characters with different races, so we can have a little bit of variety once again when it comes to that, and it would be interesting. Although that, I think Lobelia is a pretty interesting character lore wise. From the little bit of that I know, he's not exactly a good guy. I mean, I think he is a good guy, similar to Nier, right? Nier is not exactly a good person, so I think overall it would be cool. On top of that, from what I've seen, Lobelia seems to be a mage character. We have characters like Cagliostro so far that are kind of mage-like. I mean, we have quite a few characters that just use magic, right? But I want the developers to explore more with zoners and mage-type characters, because I think it's a concept, or it's a character archetype that they have not really done well so far. So I want them to make even more attempts when it comes to archetypes in general, so why not? Anyways, so now we can move on to honorable mentions. I think honorable mentions can be really fun here too, because there's quite a few. So I have a couple solid ones. They're pretty interesting, trust me. So the first honorable mention that I would say would be the dragons, the 6 dragons. So you know there's a faction in Granblue called 6 dragons. They're pretty much like elemental beings, you know. There's like a whole thing about them. They're very interesting in general, and there's like 6 of them. It's the whole faction. The thing is, I do not think they are actual playable characters. They're more like summons, I believe, and also raid bosses. So they're like giant dragons in general. However, they do have human forms, and a lot of people like them. A lot of people actually like these characters, so it would be kind of a missed opportunity to not include them in the game. Specifically speaking, and for my own sake, I want one that is called Fediel. You know why. And there's also the fact that there's already some kind of a dragon faction within the roster of Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising. When you look at the roster, if you look at the placement of Versusia, it is very suspicious, because Versusia is placed right next to Zoe instead of being right between, I don't know, Gran and Jita, for example. But she's not placed there. She's placed next to Zoe. And the only similarity that she has to Zoe is the fact that she's a dragon. She's like the incarnation of Bahamut or something like that. So for that reason, I suspect that there's an intent from Cygames to actually make a dragon faction within the roster of Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising. The next honorable mention here would be a character called Maxwell. So Maxwell is a super interesting character. So this character, actually, I didn't know about him until someone who's frequently in my comment section talking always about the lore of Granblue and giving me a ton of info about a lot of the characters. They mentioned Maxwell, and I was like, who the hell is Maxwell? I actually never heard of this guy. I've heard a lot of characters about a lot of characters in Granblue, but not this guy. So Maxwell apparently is a brand new character that is called that's from a faction called the Otherworlders. So this faction apparently is like an amalgamation of creatures and wild beasts trying to invade the world and the Sky Realm, because they want to reclaim it as their own. Apparently it actually belonged to them before, something like that. So it's a really interesting concept. And when it comes to Maxwell, apparently it's like almost like a multiverse threat in the world of Granblue, and he can erase Lyria or something like that. Pretty much the new antagonist, if you will. So it kind of fits with the idea of the story of Granblue Versus, because in Versus it's basically about parallel universe clashing between each other. They can make up some bullshit like, oh my god, because of all the things that Belliard and Lucilius did, now the other worlders have they have like a rift where they can go through and start invading, you know, the world and stuff like that. And they have like the whole doppelgangers deal too, which is interesting. They can also make something very interesting when it comes to that. So I think Maxwell in a lot of ways really fit with what is going on in the story of Versus right now. The problem with Maxwell, however, is that he's kind of new, like I mentioned. I think his appearance actually dates from 2023, so fairly new character. There's not much about him yet. He is a boss fight in the mobile game, I believe, but he doesn't really have a full-on, you know, skill shit or anything like that. I mean, come on, man. I really want him to be part of the game. So he might not be part of the game, but maybe he might not be part of season 2, but maybe at least they can make him part of season 3 if we have a season 3. I would really like a character like this. Plus, goddamn, he looks fucking badass, right? This guy looks so cool. I would really like to see him on the screen with his transformed form, obviously, next to Versusia. You know, I want to see two crazy looking characters just duking it out. I think it would be so awesome. So Maxwell definitely is an honorable mention in this case. The other honorable mention I want to mention too is Mugen. So Mugen is a character that, in my opinion, looks awesome. This character, the main reason why I want him is not so much for story reason, but because of his appearance. He's very big. He's a big guy. He looks like he could be a grappler, in my opinion. The same dude, like I mentioned, who is always in my comment section talking about Granblue, talked to me about Mugen, and he's pretty much a berserker character. He's like out of control, so he gets like random augmentations, random buffs. It's not really quite obvious how they would make this concept. They can do something similar to how they made, say, Susanoo in BlazBlue. There's already a lot of references to Susanoo in Versusia, for example, but not quite the power-up state of Susanoo. Susanoo is able to power up and unlock different boosts that he has, but I think Mugen can have something like that, but it's kind of random, and they can kind of make him like, you know, Z Broly in Dragon Ball Fighters. Why not? We can have a little bit of fun when it comes to that. Or they can even make him like, I don't know, Ezreal. Ezreal is not quite a grappler, but they can do something fun when it comes to this character. And I want him to be a grappler specifically because, once again, we only have one grappler in Granblue Versus at the moment, and it would be nice to have another one, especially because they have to flesh out the archetype. La Diva is a character that has a lot of problems, and I feel like they struggle with the design of La Diva because she's the only one. There's not enough ideas revolving around grapplers, and they can really figure out something if they add more to that type of character. So I want Mugen for that reason. The last honorable mention would be Id from Granblue Fantasy Rising. He's pretty much like the second, you know, anti-hero of the game, so it's pretty cool. Plus he's kind of a dragon type character. He would fit the bill too, you know. There's no reason for him to not be in Versus as well. Plus they've already bridged Relink and Versus a little bit by adding different soundtracks, adding aids, lobby avatar, for example, in Versus. So why not just add him to the game? All right, so that's it for the honorable mentions. The last character, the guest character that we all want to talk about. So guest characters, obviously a lot of people would be like, just add Virgil once again. Everybody wants Virgil in every goddamn game. I hate Virgil so much. Everybody's always like, oh my god, add some Tifa or whatever. I don't care about that. Add Gojo, add Goku. I don't care about these characters. The one character that I want, because I think he fits so goddamn well with the universe of Granblue, and I think there's really no reason for them to not do that, but I don't know the implications. The character that I want is Clive Rossfield from FF16. So I'm not a big fan of FF16, and I don't really care about it too much. I've played it. I thought it was it was fine. But I like Clive. I think Clive, especially when it comes to his design, his lore, his story, and everything, I think he's a pretty cool character. And I think if you make parallels with Granblue, he fits so goddamn well. There is no reason not to add this character in the roster. He is perfect for this game. His mechanics, his fighting style, everything. Even the presentation of the character would fit so well in this game, more than any other game. I mean, you want to talk about having like primals and monsters and icons and stuff like that, he is just the right character for it. I mean, they could do all kinds of things, right? His 5U could be him switching between the different, you know, icons and stuff like that. His ultimate skills could be him turning into Ifrit. If they don't want to make like a whole Ifrit gameplay, they can just make like fun animations like that. For example, you know how Zoe summons the big dragon out of nowhere? Well, Clive could turn into big Ifrit and do something big, and then, you know, turn back into Clive during the ultimate skills and stuff like that. Why not? On top of that, they can have a little bit of fun with the music too. They can mix different stuff like the main boss fight theme and stuff like that, the main Ifrit theme, Phoenix theme. They can merge all of that together and do something really fun. I mean, he just fits. I like the character. He just fits. He's perfect. Come on, I just want him in the game. So that's pretty much my prediction list for the DLC roster of Season 2 for Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising. So let me know, what do you think? Let me know who you want to see in this roster, because I think it's always fun to make predictions like that. So that'll be it for me. Thank you all so much for watching and staying through my rambling. I'll see you all in the next one. We'll probably talk about different things I want to see when it comes to balance patch for the Season 2. Anyways, that's it for me. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.